Well, welcome. I asked a question on a poll, and the answer is yes. So this is going to be the result of industry news insights from the guy on a weekly basis, on top of some consumer insights on where to buy stuff, what to buy, and so forth. So here's a couple topics, and after this train wreck, follow this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. This is As the Wheel Turns, So Do Days of Our Rides series. I will be covering topics of the industry as well as consumer views with my 30 years experience.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles. Hey, I'm the guy, Justin. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and I've been reading these articles like a lot of you, and I've seen videos of people doing basically regurgitating the articles that they just read. But I'm going to put a little twist to it due to the fact that I've been in the industry for over 30 years. And sometimes my perspective may be a little bit more different, or a little more understanding, or not as shocking, or maybe as shocking, and what to look for and what not to look for. So a couple things I'm going to cover in this particular series is As the Wheel Turns, So Do the Days of Our Rides. Yes, it's a pun off a classic soap opera, which when I told my buddies that in the back of the Park Bikes Day I was going to do this, they laughed their heads off because we used to say as the world turns, because the bicycle world is kind of an industry of soap operas. Always has been, always will be. Everybody's opinion, when you get a whole bunch of people together and have a whole bunch of different opinions, that's what you get, is a hot mess. So anyway, gonna go over a couple topics. The first one I'm gonna hit on is industry news. Industry news is, well, a couple weeks ago there was an article based on Shimano taking a 21% decrease into 2023 with the anticipation or projections. Well, you got to think about Shimano as a big corporation. They actually are about on 80 to 90% of the bikes out there, parts-wise. And they also do fishing reels, which are actually really nice. But on the bike industry side, think about this. Bike industry is a slow-moving ship. It's one of those things where you got an idea for a bike. All right, I got this idea. I'm going to make a frame. And you go to the drawing board, you do some tests. Months later, you got yourself a frame, a prototype or two. Then you go to spec it to go into production several months after that. Well, once you get into that production level, you're talking to Shimano going, okay, I'm going to need so many X parts to go on this bike, right? So it's going to take another few months for production happens on the frames and assembly of the parts and everything comes together. And this all happens over in Taiwan, China, and here in the States as well. Well, those orders are done months and months and months in advance. So when you think about 23% or 21% decrease of sales, well, those are the vendor orders for their parts to go into production. They're like the leading spear of understanding how the market is being projected by Trek Specialized Giant, all those other manufacturers that rely on those parts to come in. So that projection of being down is really not, let's say that's a big, huge decrease. We had a huge inflation of parts being made in 2021 and to 2022. And now we're going to 2023 and we know the market's softening. It is softening across the board. And they knew this, they knew this 6 months ago. So the orders are going in 6 months to 9 months ago. And that's projection of any high, there's going to be a lull. So that 21% decrease is really not a shocker. I mean, it's a pretty decent decrease, but a decrease off of an inflation number. They're still above what they probably were in 19. So to take away from it, we're not on a free fall by any means. The Shimano is actually producing back to getting closer to the normal production runs that were prior to COVID in 19 and 18. So that's actually good news. We're actually kind of stabilizing. So if that's stabilizing, the bikes are going to go on the floor. They're stabilizing. If they have too much, they're going to put them on sale, or that's going to drive the prices back down because people are not gung-ho crazy of buying everything off the floor. So that's good news for you and me when we want to buy something new or buy parts to replace those. Another kicker on a side note on that, there was an article of SRAM opening a building or a facility in Taiwan. And you know those things take months to years of planning. So having this come out now is nothing really too shocking. They're going to have their own production out there and ramp it up. They're taking on to the mountain bike world of parts and cutting into the Shimano market there, and they've done that with the Road too. They've been a very aggressive competitor with Shimano in the last, I would say, a good 10, 15 years. And they're just gaining. Of course, they're going to build their own facility and make more parts and do so. That's just a logical move. So that's all good. So between the numbers going down, stabilizing the market, 21% down in Shimano's headline, and SRAM moving in, it's kind of, it's good. It's good to have competition. Let's just put it that way. It makes both companies stronger and better. End of the day. On to the second one. I just got this bicycle retailer. I get that paper copy, which is, old school. It's kind of fun, because I like, filling paper and flip it. This reminds me of the Parker Bikes days. We sit in the break room and read through this every so on. But I came across an article about also rising post-pandemic labor rates of bike mechanics. Heart, soul, brothers and sisters of the bike mechanic world. Yeah, we're getting interesting pieces here, a little bit more bump in raises to maintain those employees. That's awesome. Give you a livable salary, which is great, which unfortunately bumps up the labor rates. So it's a two-handed thing. So the consumer, it's going to cost a little bit more, but as a consumer, we're getting used to everything costing more anyway. So services are going to be one of those things. If you want a good mechanic to work on your bike, you're going to have to pay that. It's just, there's no cheap labor anymore. There's just, it just doesn't work that way. But keep in mind, there's still a shortage of bike mechanics. So majority of these, like 45% of them, are saying it's pretty bad to try to find good mechanics out there. It's just hard. Well, they haven't been cultivated by the small mom and pop shops, Parker Bikes, because we're no longer there. They're gone. So where are these cats coming from? From schools like Barnett and so forth, or Passion Pieces, or college kids or what have you. But there's not a lot of them out there anymore. I mean, back in the day, here's a reflection. Back in like 2001, I would have a service manager at Lee Cyclery in Fort Collins, Colorado, a stack full of resumes at the beginning of each season going in, because I'm in a college town, and they would all have like 2 or 3 years of good experience working in bike shops, kids going to college. That's awesome. Well, I had a lot of mechanics to be able to hire and bring on, which was great. And if you're watching this, if you're one of the mechanics we brought on, hi. Today, there is none. You do get a few and you're like, oh, you worked at your lawn company or whatever. Like nothing related to the bike industry at all. So basically you have to bring these up and groom them in yourself. Well, it takes time and money, and bike shops don't have that. It's just one of those things, especially the bigger ones trying to produce. And well, bigger ones may have that cultivating power, but a lot of the independent bike shops, no, not the case. The other big topic was with the rates overall. Mechanics jobs satisfied right now. There's livable wages. I mean, they're pretty high. I mean, labor is just high. You're just gonna cost. So 43% are pretty high. What benefits do you offer to the mechanics? Any job. You're looking for your 401k. You're looking for paid time off. You're looking for health benefits and all that thing. 67% of them get the paid vacation, which is great. That's awesome. The other ones, get this. This is a fun industry part of it. The second one down is 54.9% of those bike shops are giving out free product or a free bike. That's great, because when you work at a bike shop, you don't make enough to buy a bike half the time. So getting the one working there from the boss going, hey, you're doing a great job, here's a bike, that's awesome. It's a win-win. The person gets to ride more because he's riding a bike that he enjoys doing because he's in the industry doing it. And in addition to, he's advertising and promoting the product that he's riding. Therefore, he works at a bike shop. And he's also overall a little happier, or she is a little happier to have that bike. We used to have a program, there's a demo program for employees that full-time employees can pick a bike a year, ride it for a season, and you just trade it in. And then the next season, you get a new one. It was just awesome. So it was part of the EP program through the bike shop. The bike shop would buy them, then we'd sell them at the end of the year. So That's how that goes. So I like seeing some of this stuff, which is great, which is really helping cultivating good job opportunities and so forth. So that branches off into big bike shop corporations like Truck and Specialized, and bike shops, which you have more opportunity, or mom and pop shops, which you kind of just get stuck in that same position and you work there for a long time and all of a sudden you have to quit because you don't make enough money. So hopefully at some point we can find a happy medium in that. Just unfortunately right now it just still seems like there's a pretty big gap between those two. All right, our next segment is customers' insights. So this week, a big news, TrekFest. I made a little video about this before, you can check it out. It's basically they're bringing back TrekFest, which used to be a seasonal promotion that Trek would do. It's starting in the 90s where it would have a couple bike, 2-3 models that do a discount and a whole slew of accessories to go with it with discounted too. These were usually special buys, or actually they would pick these products out and have extra ones made for these particular sales going into the sale. Well, we're in a situation completely different where there's apparently overages of inventory and need to try to move them, as Specialized is led at the beginning or actually the tail end of last season into this season, which they had some big discounts, as well as like Pro's Closet discounting a lot of theirs, and also there's a whole bunch of layoffs and all this. So it's kind of like a lot of kind of doom and gloom in this, but TrekFest hits and they're like, Trek's finally having a sale. And that's great. That's awesome. But the thing is it's not very warmly received because the discounts that people are looking for or already have been seeing from other manufacturers is not nearly as deep. Well, the reflection, I did a couple comments on this on a couple posts or people's other comments. And the thing is if you're a healthier company, you're in a situation like this where you did not plan this really. They did plan it, but not plan it. It was kind of like a preemptive, we need to do something. And it's more of a promotional branding versus promotion of getting units out the door. Well, it kind of is, but not. Trying not to move old inventory. Let's say it's not that. What it is trying to promote branding, which is kind of like more of a softer sale versus a hardcore liquidation. So they're healthier. That's what it basically means. They made the right decisions, had the right product mixes, they sold down on their inventory, and they're okay with what they have. So they're not deeply discounting them going into the season. Sorry, you're not going to get that super duper deal that you were hoping to get. Well, you can still find those. Compare to apples and apples. You take a retail price of a Trek and take a regular retail price of a Specialized. Look at those two models you're looking at, like a mountain bike and a mountain bike. If it's a full suspension, whatever. They're going to have a counterpart, right? You look at those and you go through the spec sheets, which they may have a little bit of variations between them, but they'll be very similar because the price points is about the same as how they pulled those. Whoever has a deeper discount, that's your bike. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Fitting on them, well, they all have a ride, and there's a whole bunch of, whole thing with that, different brands. But if you are non-traditional biased to one brand or another, or from another to another, if you're open to have it, either a Trek or a Bay or a Jamis or a Giant, go with that, because they all make pretty decent bikes. And when you definitely are looking at to the $2,000 to $3,000, they better be making a pretty damn nice bike. So when you're looking at those, compared to apples and apples, and then you go to the prices, like, well, this one's like $500 cheaper. Save yourself $500 because you're going to need it for some other stuff, right? Anyway, the performance on them, are going to be pretty good. So that's my 2 cents, because when you're looking at the industry big sale, well, finally Trek did finally open up their sale, but it's more of a promotional push. And it's kind of crazy to see all these comments like, it's not the big sales I thought it was to be. Oh, this is really, really a bad thing or whatever. And you see those comments being deleted constantly off the Facebook page or whatever. It's like kind of hilarious to me. But anyway, it's just one of those things. So yeah, TrekFest, it's not as big as you think. The bigger sales, you probably, if I was going to put a prediction, August, that's when you would see the over of inventory and going, oh crap, we need to move some of the stuff, because it's like cars. The new next model season kicks off in July. I mean, that's when the newer stuff kicks in. So 2024 stuff is going to be hitting midsummer, or has been. And that's usually the upper end. So when we're talking about the lower end, like $1,000 less items, they finally got smart over a few years ago. They don't change model years. They don't brand them as model years. Like, oh, this is the new 820. It really isn't. It's the same thing with different paint job. I mean, so they kept it neutral so they don't have those shortages when they go into it. Just the next model in, it just folds into the next one, which is fine for the recreational entry-level bikes. At the higher end, where you're looking for eye candy, like, ooh, I want the new shock that has this, or the new suspension that has that, or the components that are whatever. Those are the ones you're going to see have the big model year changes, the big releases, and so forth. But fortunately, the cost of those have gotten so high. You have to be really into the industry or really into cycling, already been on like an 8th bike by now, to go, oh, I'm going to go spend $5,000 on that. I want that. $5,000 is a lot of money, people. So, those are very, very smaller elite group riders. So they already have their things dialed out, and most of the time they're working for shops to get the discount anyway. Anyway, that's the top one. What I finish up with is, where is fits? Where do people get fitted anymore? It's like, where did it go? Is fit important? It is. It's very important. That's the first thing when you're looking for a bike. Is it going to fit you? You got to figure out the size that's going to fit you with that particular brand. Particular brands have different sizes, and it's a whole confusing hot mess of it. And a lot of bike shops, they no longer have the static fit, which basically puts you on a trainer and does your simple gait, angles and plumb line and positioning and so forth. They've all gotten rid of that. They went to the dynamic, which they were kind of forced to by the big manufacturers to do as a shop lead gen to bring in money. Another business, basically. So you pay that $300 on top of what you've already purchased the bike. So let's put it this way. If you're going to a bike shop, you're looking for a bike, they don't fit anybody, they just eyeball it. All right. But in some sense, you're going to have to do some research and figure out how to get that fit. You're just going to have to, because that's what makes your ride your ride. I mean, it's going to make your experience enjoyable and all those things, but it's going to have to happen. Well, the problem is since they don't have those static fits, then you're kind of forced to pay the $300 or what have you to do that high-end fit, which is almost to the elite cyclist level. So I'm asking the industry, bike shops, please bring back the static fit. Just something simple. Put them on the trainer. Make sure the seat height is right and the saddle's adjusted forward or aft. Make sure the bars are adjusted. Make sure they have that little more warm hug when they're like, oh, this bike is actually dialed. I know it takes a couple extra minutes, but that will make or break a person's experience in cycling. So as a consumer, please try to find a shop that does those. I found one locally down in Castle Rock. They actually they do a fit that's included, the little bit nicer fit that's included with every bike they sell. If you want to take it or not, it's there. And they do sell the service as well, but they still kept that static fit, which is awesome. So if you can find a shop, if you're buying new, that's the direction to go. I sell used road bikes. Every bike I sell locally, I have a fit area. And you see probably videos of that. And like just the shots of it, and that's what I do. So I do have a poll up right now on YouTube. Go to my the community one, and if you bought a bike recently, mark if you had a fit done. Was it a static fit, or did you pay for a dynamic fit, or was it just eyeball, or was there no fit at all? And if you did get a dynamic fit, mark down how much you paid, and if you don't mind disclosing that, and how much you had to pay for parts on top of that to adjust that. I'm trying to get a pile of ideas, or actually a pile of information of what's the normal consumer actually experience. It's one of those things where you can't just ask the shops individually, because they're going to be skewed so by their brand. So I want just a general, any shop, any place, any location, not general graphic, all that, just a general pool of fit. And please bring the fits back. So to recap, thank you for spending time with me, number one. Number two, shop your local bike shops if you can. And number three, go ride your bike. Get out there. Springtime. Let's do this. Have a wonderful day.